Hi, this is Raymond Rose. Welcome to part two of my podcast entitled Declutter and Turn Your Clutter into Cash. Please go back and listen to part one if you're just hearing this one for the first time. And by the way, if you're a new listener to my podcast, please know that this is a live podcast. There's no editing, there's no videos to watch, there's nothing that's going to distract you. Just listen to my words. You may want to grab a paper and pencil, take some notes along the way, and we'll go from there. So if you're just joining me, you've already heard about how you're going to set up Facebook. Here's the important, and hopefully, like I said, you've listened to part one. So here's the point. I just talked about selling things on Facebook Marketplace. Then I talked about putting it on a local tag sale forum. So here's the things, in my opinion, you need to know about selling on Facebook. Number one, if it's a larger item, like I've got friends right now that are trying to sell a boat. The boat is going to be selling for $40,000. There's a lot of moving parts involved. A lot of people are interested in it, but my friends have taken the needed steps to put a plan together so that they already know, number one, what are the state guidelines regarding a purchase and sales agreement and transferring the title and how all those different moving parts work when selling a boat. But the important thing was this: collecting $40,000. Where are you going to go? How are you going to collect $40,000? Are they going to give you $40,000 in cash? Are they going to write a bank check, a certified check? I mean, how are you going to make sure that the $40,000 that they're giving you before you hand over that title is legitimate? So number one, the response is, hey, you want to Google and figure out the best ways to doing that. And what we came up with, and again, this is just what they're doing, doesn't mean that that's what you have to do, is that if somebody really wants to buy the boat for $40,000, meet them at the bank. Maybe you can go through the boat, and maybe you've got some different people there with you, just from a security point of view. All those different moving parts, because selling an expensive item like that is, you got to be precautionary. But meet them at the bank, or because the challenge these days is with these high technology copy machines and stuff like that. I'm telling you right now, there are people that are forging checks, if you will, or the copy machines are so good, the color copiers are really good. You want to make sure that whatever you're selling, you're getting cash. You're getting the right amount of cash, and you want to make sure it's not even counterfeit cash. I mean, there's all different types of scams going on out there. So you really got to do your due diligence. Just don't jump into that. Make sure you do your due diligence. Talk to the bank, meet with the banker or whatever. And even if you're selling a smaller type item, I know what seems to be popular these days. If you're selling something for $100, $200 or whatever, you may not want somebody coming over to your home and now they're finding out. Or I remember years ago when I was doing this, I was selling a TV, and it was like, wow, I'm feeling awkward. I'm letting a total stranger come into my home and buying a TV for $300. I don't want to do that again. So what's happening these days is people are taking videos of whatever they're trying to sell. And when somebody wants to buy it, a common thing now is, number one, they're meeting people in the parking area where there might be a convenience store, because there's lots of people around, and there's video cameras going. Most of the convenience stores have video cameras of inside and even in the area where people might be pumping gasoline. Or the other thing, then one of the neighboring towns just did this, is they've told their residents, listen, come into the local police department, come into the lobby. There's video cameras going there. The police are not going to get involved, but at least if you want to feel that there's a level of comfort knowing that you're doing a transaction in a police lobby, a police department lobby, well, that seems to be a certain level of security. And then when you tell the person, let's say I'm the seller, and I don't know, I'm selling an electric guitar and an amplifier for $400. Maybe I don't want those people coming over to my house. I don't know who they are. So I'll sit there and say, listen, I'll meet you in the lobby of the Anytown USA Police Department. And if the person that's saying that wants to buy the guitar and the amplifier says, no, I'm not meeting you in a police department lobby, well then fine, move on to somebody else. Because if somebody is a legitimate buyer, they shouldn't have an issue meeting in a police department lobby. So there's a whole bunch of things going on when you're selling those types of items by yourself. There's different moving parts. I've been selling items myself. I'm a minimalist, so I don't really have that much, but I've helped people sell items. And those are the different strategies I've used. They've worked perfectly. I've never had an issue. But again, do your due diligence. If you can, find out who's buying from you, where you're meeting them, all those, making sure you're getting cash, all those different things. And for me, by the way, I don't know if it's right or wrong. I'm not selling things using PayPal or Venmo or any of those other apps. It's like, listen, just give me the cash. That's what I want. Put it in a little plastic container at my driveway, or I want the money, from when I'm meeting you at the convenience store, the police department, or whatever. And one of the things, by the way, that when I'm selling items like that, when people are like, oh, I'm really interested in whatever, buying the guitar and the amplifier, and then I'll usually come back because if I check their Facebook profile, I'll say, well, where are you coming from? And then sometimes you're like, well, they don't answer. It's like, where are you coming from? In other words, are you driving up, are you driving 200 miles, 300 miles, 400 miles to buy a guitar and an amplifier? That doesn't sound logical for me. So again, you're just protecting yourself to make sure there's no scammers out there, nothing bad is going on, etc. So you got to do your due diligence. You got to stay safe. Your safety is and your health is more important than the money. So we're going to wrap up part 2. Stay tuned for part 3. This is, again, really, really good stuff here, because what's coming up next is going to be just as powerful for you. Again, thanks for hanging out. And by the way, if you've had a positive response so far with this podcast, please give me a thumbs up on the link below. Let me know that you're enjoying what you're hearing so far. And by the way, consider subscribing to my podcast. I come out with a podcast every day regarding something regarding your health, regarding your time, regarding your money, regarding your habits. I'm hoping that you'll subscribe to my channel. So, hey, that's it for this one. I'm going to move on to part 3.